Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. Our makeup work continues in this, Final Fantasy V, which I will be beating with only time mages. Now, this is technically a dubious inclusion in the makeup work series, because I haven't actually done a series on time mages in this channel. There just aren't enough time mages in main-numbered Final Fantasies. However, when makeup work won the next series vote, one of my patrons suggested including it. And that seems like a very reasonable suggestion, given otherwise we'd need to wait for a chance to do a one-off video to do this video, so here we are. I also discovered, by mistake, that some cutscenes only load when I use the save file that has all the classes unlocked right at the start, which is very interesting. So something about the cutscene removal mod interacts weirdly with the all classes save. Not a huge deal, but I did learn it. And yes, that does mean I did have to do the intro twice, because I'm stupid. Good thing it's a quick intro. And now, having unlocked job classes, twice, I have time mages, and things are going to start out a bit rough. As might be expected from the name, time mages cast time magic. The game will not be giving me time magic until I reach the point where you would normally unlock time mage, meaning, at least for now, I am limited to basic attacks. Good news is that time mages can equip rods, staves, and daggers. None of these are great weapons, but they are at least weapons. So first destination is into the canal to do some very slow grinding for some levels, because I am very weak at this point. It doesn't help that time mages would really prefer to stay in the back row, but that will reduce my mediocre damage to an even lower level. So front row it is. And now we try the first boss, Carlibos. This boss is normally quite easy, it is the first boss with job classes, but time mages struggle more than I'd like. My damage is bad, my durability is also bad, and my healing is limited to 50 HP potions. The boss also loves to paralyze my party members, against which I can do nothing. Good thing this boss is also not that durable. That leads into the ship graveyard, pick up some treasures, and it's next boss time, Siren. This boss has two forms. While in human form, I can get off some mediocre damage with basic attacks. Once Siren switches to her undead form, I can continue to deal mediocre damage with potions. This fight is really rough, with potions neither healing nor dealing as much damage as I'd like. And time mages are incredibly fragile, especially when they are in the front row. In retrospect, I should have just moved the party to the back row. Oh well, it took like 30 potions and most of my Phoenix Downs, but I managed to defeat Siren. Next up is Carwin, which has some new weapons and armor. Neither are great, but they are improvements. And hidden under this bridge is an ice rod. And yes, I will be using rods fairly extensively, particularly in the early game, where the time mages have no real offensive capabilities. Those daggers are actually dealing some decent work. Still not good damage, but it's no longer horrible damage, and that is an improvement. And it's probably going to go poorly, but let's see how the Megissa fight goes. My damage is still fine, my health has improved, but honestly not by that much, and both Forza and Megissa deal a lot of damage. That would be fine if I had any good healing, but I don't. Okay, this may be a mistake, but this is the last fight before I get actual magic. I'm just gonna use the Frost Rod to end the fight. Clearing the fight gets me a dragon to fly south to Waltz, and I can finally buy some time magic. Hooray! None of this magic deals direct damage, but it's better than nothing. Dragon acquired, and I can also fly over to Castle Tycoon. There are treasures here, but the only one I really care about is the healing staff. This finally gives me a healing spell on par with Cura. It can only target one ally at a time, but it is also free. Back to Castle Waltz to loot all the shiny items, and there is an emergency, as normal. So it's time for Waltz Tower. My damage is still trash, but I have healing, and that can be enough. So let's see how this Garula fight goes. My plan is to have everyone except Ferris be in the back row to reduce damage from counterattacks. In the fight, I can start by casting haste and regen on the entire party, so turns come around more quickly, and I have some passive healing. Regen doesn't heal a lot, but it is something, and wow, Ferris's damage is so bad. Oh, I can slow Garula, can't I? It won't do anything to mitigate counterattacks, but at least it will attack a bit less. Okay, this is taking too long. It's time for everyone other than Lena to be in the front row for a bit. Okay, now Garula is double countering, so it's time to move them into the back row. Now it's even more difficult to attack at all. I really hate this fight. There are definitely great strategies for this fight in a casual playthrough, but the counterattacking this fight is really annoying to deal with in most single-class runs. Oh well, this fight is not quick, but eventually I do manage to finally win the fight. It only took 40 potions and 10 minutes of my life from me. And beating Garula means I can warp over to the western continent and reach Karnak, which is great because this place finally sells elemental rods. Though they are not cheap, especially for this point in the game. But at this point, I really don't have any better options. At least I can also buy better armor and daggers. That's something. Oh, there's also new magic. I don't think gravity or stop are actually going to be that useful, but it doesn't hurt to buy them anyway. Next dungeon is the fire ship, and wow, fighting here is not a quick process. But I need to kill these enemies, both to get experience and because being rod dependent means being guild dependent. And oh boy, am I going to be guild dependent for a while. At least rods are broken in the early game. That should help make this section of the game much easier. The fireship has a lot of nice consumables, and it's into the boss who dies in one frost rod usage. Like I said, rods are broken in the early game. Good thing getting money to buy them isn't a super tedious process. Anyway, time to escape from the exploding castle. Much as I would love to grab all the treasure, it's probably better to just bail so I don't have to burn through as many elemental rods. And of course the boss here is very easy, just kill 2 wolves, then attack the soldier until he dies. Skipping the Deathclaw fight here is just always the way to go. And back to Karnak to restock on elemental rods before heading over to the Library of the Ancients. And here, we're just going to run from all the encounters on the way to the first boss, Ifrit, who dies in one frost rod. Seriously, why do they make rods work this way? It just makes any class that can equip rods so much stronger than every other class in the game. Oh well, at least it's making my life easier. And at the end of the dungeon is Byblos, who does not die in one fire rod. It takes 2. And means a normally painful boss is less painful. Hooray, that clears another dungeon and means I now have a boat. And first destination is Chocobo, which has slightly better daggers, which should be very helpful in grinding to afford rods. And new armor. Neat. Next up, it's over to Crescent Island to lose a boat and gain a black chocobo. So it's back to the Library of the Ancients to reunite with Cid and Mid to deal with the sandworm problem I didn't know we had. And this problem, as with many others, can be solved with frost rods. I can then run through the desert, get tricked into a pit trap, and end up under Crescent Island to unlock the airship. And the next boss is weak to lightning, and so it dies in a single rod. That means I now have an airship for even faster travel. Huzzah! And we need to deal with a floating town, which means grabbing some adamantite, which requires killing the adamantoise, which takes 2 frost rods. I swear this video will stop being, and then I threw a stick at it, soon? I just need to get an actual offensive spell. Anyway, time for the Flying Fortress's defenses, which are all weak to lightning. You'll never guess my solution to this problem. Then it's time for the big cannon, and you'll never guess my... Jokes aside, this fight actually takes a lot of rods to kill because this cannon is surprisingly durable. Just means even more money grinding. Hooray. The Ronka Ruins has a decent supply of consumables to grab, and the enemies here drop an okay amount of kill, though killing these enemies without breaking rods is a challenge. I need a decent number of rods to get through the next series of bosses, and a handful more to get me to my first actual offensive spell, so it's time for some tedious grinding. Oh, I also need 50,000 to buy a flame ring. I need to buy this now, so I have it much later. Hooray! Okay, a bunch of grinding done, and I have enough rods to get me through the next few bosses. Hopefully. And a flame ring, so here's hoping. Anyway, next boss on the list is the Archaeoavis. Start the fight with haste and regen. This fight shouldn't be too bad, but better to be safe. Archaeoavis changes elemental weaknesses throughout the fight, so I do have to vary up the elemental rods I break to bring down its first 4 phases. Then it dies and decides, no thank you. The final phase is immune to all magic, meaning no more rod breaking for me. Instead, I need to switch to my disappointing physical attacks. This form also has Maelstrom, which is very dangerous. At least I have some high potions and the healing staff. Those are enough to keep me alive long enough to finish the boss off. And that means Galoof has left and we are going to follow after him. But that means a mini boss rush. And that starts with Pyrobolus, which dies to 1 frost rod, then into the Titan fight, which takes 2 rods and then nearly takes out my party with Earthshaker. But someone survived, so I still won. And the final boss fight is the Chimera Brain, a boss easily defeated with 2 elemental rods. This opens the portal to Galoof's world, and after buying one last batch of elemental rods for the road, it's time to head over there. Here, the party is immediately captured, and Galoof must come to the rescue, which starts by throwing a flame rod to take out Gilgamesh. Then the party must do battle upon a big bridge, as it were. Despite weak offenses, these fights are all stupidly easy, and it's time for another Gilgamesh fight. My plan here is to mostly rely on physical attacks in Phase 1, and also hope for a silence to stop Gilgamesh's buffs. This works to reach Phase 2, but doesn't stop his Phase 2 buffs. But that's okay, a handful of rods can finish the fight. Though they are only dealing half damage, just a few more easy fights to finish off the big bridge and the party is thrown halfway across the world. And here, finally, we get an actual offensive spell, because this town sells level 4 magic, which includes the time magic Comet, which can have inconsistent damage, but means I can stop throwing elemental rods at everything. My sanity, and my wallet, rejoice. Okay, so new weapons, new armor, and an actual spell to deal damage. It's time to move on and head over to this forest to find this Moogle, who now needs rescued. So it's into the underwater cave. And wow, it's amazing how fast fights can go when you actually have an offensive spell. So glad Comet exists. And at the end of the cave is a boss fight, killed by throwing a single phoenix down. Hello, Moogle Village, I'm here to rob you of all your robables, and then fly back to Castle Ball. There's a dragon, it's sick, I need to help it, which means heading through the town of Quelb, which, as always, has some great new equipment to purchase, including new breakable rods. The Northern Mountain is another area with some okay consumables and nothing else of interest to me, and it's next boss time, Dragon Pod. And yes, I did suggest that I was done throwing rods at everything, but I think that's going to start after this fight. The little flowers summoned in this fight are really annoying, and while Comet can deal decent damage, it is single target, so... Anyway, with dragon herbs in hand, it's back to Ball to cure the dragon, and now I have access to Flight, which means popping over to Guido's cave to make sure that gets sunk. And then over to Castle Sergei to solve a library puzzle to get another time magic, Float, which is very useful in a few fights. Next up, it's time for a boat fight against Gilgamesh. Open with haste on my party and slow on Gilgamesh. Comet's damage may be inconsistent, but it averages out to be pretty good. Wait, he never summoned Enkidu. Interesting. Anyway, next up is Barrier Tower. I grab what treasure I can because the dragons here are a bit too strong for me. And then it is Atomos. I set up haste, and once one party member is down, just let the comets fly. Comet is weirdly cheap for the amount of damage it can deal. The barrier has been broken, and I have a submarine, so it's time to properly visit Guido's cave. He gives me the Guardian Branch, which I can take over to Moor. First, I should swing by the town to buy better equipment. Very nice. Ooh, level 5 spells. That gives me Hastega, which is always nice. The Forest of Moor has nothing interesting before it catches fire, and certainly nothing else after it catches fire. So it is Crystal Boss time. This fight always goes the same way. Reduce the Fire Crystal to low health, so it spams Vibraga. Bartz has a Flame Ring equipped, so that heals him. Only real difference is Bartz is hasted, and the non-fire crystals are slowed, making the fight even safer than normal. I do have to finish the fight with a few knife attacks, though. Even Comet isn't that cheap. So Galoof is out of the party, and Kryl is in. So it's time for Exdeath's castle. Other than some potentially useful consumables, the castle has nothing exciting for time mages. I also remembered to not open the treasure chest in this room to skip the stupid Gilgamesh fight. And that means it's time for one of the hardest fights in the game, Exdeath. Not really sure why I'm trying to cast slow here. Even if it hits, Exdeath will just haste himself. No, the real plan is to set up haste on everyone, regen on everyone, and then spam Comet. Lena needs to focus on healing with the healing staff, and the many high potions I brought in help a lot to keep the party alive. Comet's damage is pretty good, and the spell is cheap enough to spam basically constantly. Oh, I did forget about Earthshaker. That's one of the main reasons I picked up Float, actually. Okay, I'm into the final phase where Exdeath throws out tier 3 elemental spells, but I don't especially like my odds. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, let's just try that again. I'm not going to bother with regen this time because it honestly just doesn't heal enough to be worth it, and the whole strategy is Hastega and Comet, with some healing as necessary. And honestly, being able to cast damaging spells this quickly is burning down a lot of health. I don't think I even saw Phase 2. Phase 3 is still where things get pretty scary. Exdeath's double attacking can easily outpace my healing, even at Hastega speed, so I really just need to keep spamming Comet and hoping against hope that... yeah, that tracks. Third time, definitely the charm. I definitely shouldn't just go into the other room and do some leveling like a smarter person might. Nope, another try will surely win the day. And yeah, actually the third time really is the charm. I get a bit luckier with no one dying, and haste means healing my party is actually easier than I thought. Okay, that means we're into World 3. And that starts with Lena and Ferris leaving the party for a bit, so for now it's just Bartz and... oh gosh, I forgot Kryl. Hi Kryl, definitely didn't completely forget to talk to you. Back to Pirate Cave to join back up with Boko, then all around the world to get dropped into this cave for the next boss fight. The Antlion can half my party's level with Discord, which is very funny because Comet ignores the caster's level and stats completely, so it doesn't even matter. Ferris then rejoins the party so we can head into what remains of Guido's cave and get teleported over to the ancient library. Then into the desert to access the Pyramid of Moor. And I'm just gonna break some rods for these gargoyles, they're so annoying. As usual, my goal for the pyramid is to get through it as quickly as... wait, why is Kryl's MP so low? She has like 60% of everyone else's. Okay, let's try toggling her job class? Okay, that fixed it. I have never seen that before. How did it take me this long to notice? Anyway, the rest of the pyramid is uneventful, and I reached the tablet at the end without any problems. There is no boss here, so it's time to bail. And reach the next boss fight against Melusine. This boss has a shifting elemental barrier and a stupidly high physical defense. Comet doesn't actually care about either of these things. I do pop the healing staff onto Kryl briefly for some free healing, but I could have also just used a few high potions and achieved the exact same results. An easy fight, and Lena is back in the party, and that means I have acquired the airship. The path to the Interdimensional Rift is open, but I have so much other stuff to do. First up is to head to the sealed castle to grab the Sage's Staff, the Assassin's Dagger, and the Magus Rod. None of these are actually that useful to me, but no weapons really are. Then it's over to Mirage to buy Quick and Banish from the magic shop, and some better armor. I'm still short one time magic spell, but getting that's going to be a whole thing. Oh, I need to pick up the Thief Dagger here while I'm at it. And grab the Black Chocobo, because I need to head over to the Phoenix Tower to do some theft, which is made a lot easier thanks to haste and stop. I need 2 reflect rings, and I actually get them very quickly. Oh, I should also pop back over to the Pyramid of Moor. There's some items here of some value, maybe? Nah, it's experience if nothing else. Okay, over to the Island Shrine, kill some gargoyles with rods because these fights are tedious. And I don't feel like dealing with them. Like the Pyramid, the Sealed Shrine doesn't really have anything that useful for time mages, other than a Protect Ring. And it's boss time, and this boss is not interesting. Basically, there's 4 targets, but only 1 is real at a time, meaning I just have to randomly target one with Comet, then the next, and again until I hit the next boss. At which point the cycle repeats. Because of how the boss's initiative works in this fight, especially with my entire party hasted, the boss basically does nothing the entire fight. It's really just a very manual boss fight, and I am never in any danger. So, anyway, Island Shrine completed. And the whole point of doing that was to unlock the Forked Tower. On one half you can't use magic, on the other side you shouldn't use physical attacks. Hooray! As is typical, this dungeon is not that difficult. First fight is against the Minotaur, which is made a bit silly by the fact that breaking elemental rods doesn't count as using magic. Which is technically accurate, but still. Then it's over to Omniscient, where I immediately forget that my entire party is protected, so now I've hasted the boss. Well done, me! Good news is, Omniscient can't actually do anything against my reflected party members, and I can just spam Comet. So it didn't really matter. Anyway, that unlocked 2 spells I don't care about, but more importantly, I finally get access to the submarine. But next, let's just stock up on a few more rods now that I can go to Karnak again. Other than the gargoyles in the Great Sea Trench, I don't actually think I'd need them, but might as well. Anyway, the Great Sea Trench itself is filled with treasures of dubious value and a little town, which is interesting. My actual goal in being here is to grab the tablet, which means I must fight the boss of this dungeon for the first time on this channel. But first, I forgot something, the magic lamp. So I'm gonna grab that real quick, because I can use the magic lamp 3 times to end the fight before the boss even uses any attacks, which is very funny. Anyway, that gets me Meteor, the final spell in my arsenal. And Meteor is really just what if you could cast a stronger Comet 4 times in a row. Let me quickly demonstrate on some gargoyles. Ooh, another Protect Ring, nice! I'm really just doing Istri Falls to grab some goodies before I start the final sequence properly, and with all those acquired, it's time to start the final sequence. Right after I recharged the magic lamp I had to use in the Great Sea Trench. Bluntly, I'm not expecting much to be able to stand up to 4 time mages with Meteor. I guess we'll see. First boss on the list is Califisteri. I cast Istega, even though I don't need to, and then spam Meteor. Apparently Califisteri doesn't counter Meteor, and as such, she never does anything in this fight. Next up is a Panda. A Panda does counter Meteor, which makes the fight slightly more difficult, mostly because I need to take a break to heal up mid-fight. Meteor still makes pretty quick work of the boss, though. Then it's on to Azel Magia. This fight is optional, but I'd like the save point here for convenience. Despite being less dangerous in most respects, Azel Magia must have a pretty decent magic defense. Some of these hits are dealing 0 damage. It doesn't really make a difference, though. Still dies fast enough. Cast Float in preparation for my next boss, Catastrophe, who will do nothing but use 100 Gs if someone is floating, which it manages to do once before falling to the deluge of meteors. Alright, onwards to Halicarnassus. Cryo leads with Hastega because she is basically always going first thanks to Hermes sandals. The fight then ends very quickly thanks to meteors. Wow, I don't think I ever realized how much damage Meteor deals, and how little HP the bosses in this game have. Anyway, Twintani is up next. As usual, the whole goal in this fight is to survive until it starts to charge Giga Flare. It then becomes vulnerable to instant death effects, and thankfully stop, because I am getting hilariously unlucky with my death triggers. Seriously, I start using Gravaga with Lena just to see if reducing it to 0 health is going to end up being faster. It's so silly. Anyway, that is the last required boss fight, and I don't even have to wait through Gilgamesh's chatting. Hooray! Okay, I have leveled up to level 40 to be ready for X-Step. My HP totals look a bit low for all my guests, but no harm in trying it out now. Meteor doesn't scale, so my damage is as good as it's going to get, and as good as it's going to get is in fact quite good. Tree X-Death only gets off a handful of attacks before dropping to Meteors. It's then Neo X-Death time, and that means spamming the magic lamp until Odin comes out and kills the rear segment. Then it's just spam Meteors more. I could focus fire Comet on the bottom section to stop Almagest, but honestly Meteor deals more damage per hit, and usually hits the bottom segment at least once anyway, so I kind of just have to hope. This is also my first big opportunity to use Quick, which costs a lot of MP, but gives the caster 2 turns in a row. It's expensive, but my only healing is going to be elixirs anyway, so who cares? And yep, that was my big concern. Almagest one-shots the entire party. Big sag. But that means I only have one real recourse. It's time to do some grinding to get more levels. If I can't survive Almagest, the fight is a no-go. At least Meteor makes grinding very quick. Okay, we're back into the fight, 5 levels gained, and my health total is looking much more survivable. My strategy is the same, because it's kind of the only strategy. Haste Ega on the party and spam Meteor. This gets me through the X-Death portion of the fight very quickly, though X-Death did get off a Meteor, which makes my party's health lower than I'd like. First on the to-do list is healing the party, which is actually made much easier thanks to Quick. Letting my party take 2 turns in sequence for the low price of a bunch of MP is incredibly useful, it turns out. Back on my feet, and it's time for Almagest, and it only hit one character. Someday I'm going to learn how Almagest works. Someday. Anyway, this is the part where I spam Meteors, and while I normally only use elixirs to heal health, I'm actually burning through MP fast enough that I need to use them for HP regen, which is kind of wild. On the other hand, with how much damage I'm dealing, I don't think it super matters. If I can't kill Neo X-Death fast when I'm dealing this much damage, I don't deserve to win this fight. Ooh, that's exciting, the front segment died first, that's fun. X-Death does go to try and use Almagest again, but I'm dealing just too much damage. The bottom segment has died. With only one segment remaining, X-Death will start spamming Meteor, but does not live long enough to do so. And that was Final Fantasy V, beaten with only time mages. And that went exactly how I expected it to. Other than the very start of the game where I didn't have access to time magic and limited rod access, that was very easy. Time mages are easily one of the strongest classes in the game, and that definitely showed here. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out in a few weeks. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos, so if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone, and will remain that way. For now, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.